Ever tried navigating the absolute maze of government public records? Yeah, you know exactly how frustrating and honestly how ridiculously expensive it can get in a hurry. Today, we're handing you a specialized detective-level guide to unlocking Alabama's public record system in this explainer. Because, get this, did you know that while those third-party commercial websites are out there routinely charging hundreds of dollars for access to Alabama divorce records, there is actually a completely free courthouse terminal loophole written right into state law? No way, right? But it's true. You absolutely do not have to pay those steep paywalls, and today, I'm going to show you exactly how to bypass them. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at the value of divorce records, certificates versus full decrees, free online search strategies, the courthouse loophole itself, interpreting your legal findings, and finally, privacy, ethics, and the law. Let's dive right into Section 1, the value of divorce records and why we search for them. Uncovering these documents, it's not just about digging up dusty, bureaucratic paperwork. This is a absolutely crucial investigative step. The real-world applications here are highly practical. Think about it. You might need them to resolve modern property disputes, where knowing exactly who got a specific piece of real estate is, well, vital. Or maybe you're verifying child support payments, which usually gets cross-referenced with the Department of Human Resources. But beyond those intense legal battles, these records are literal gold mines. We're talking amateur genealogists mapping out family trees, folks running personal background checks, or historians trying to validate their research. Whatever your reason is, these records hold the factual truth of a legal dissolution. Moving on to Section 2, certificates versus full decrees, or basically knowing your target. Okay, so a crucial first step for any investigator is knowing exactly what you're hunting for. It's kind of like the difference between a receipt and a whole book. An administrative divorce certificate, which is issued by the health department for divorces from 1950 onward, is just the receipt. It simply confirms the event happened, giving you the names, the date, and the county. That's pretty much it. The judicial divorce decree, on the other hand, is the entire book. It's part of the circuit court case file, detailing everything from custody arrangements and the division of assets to financial calculators and the specific agreements they reached. Bottom line, if you need the nitty-gritty details, you want the court decree, not just the health department certificate. So prep work is key here. Before you can execute a successful search, you got to gather your clues. First off, you'll need the full names of the spouses and specifically their names before their first marriage. You'll also need the exact, or at least the approximate date the divorce was finalized. Crucially, you have to know the specific county where the jurisdiction was held. Why? Because Alabama trial records are actually maintained locally by circuit court clerks. Oh, and if you're requesting official certificates directly from the state, be ready to fork over your own valid ID and signature. All right, Section 3, free online search strategies. This is how we're bypassing the paywalls. To be totally efficient, you need a precise research protocol. Step 1, establish your date range. This is big because if the divorce occurred prior to 1950, the state health department won't even have it. Which perfectly leads to Step 2, for those pre-1950 archives, go directly to FamilySearch.org. They have digitized a massive amount of historical Alabama court records and it is completely free. Step 3, for modern cases, check the Alabama Appellate Court's public portal. If a trial court's divorce decree happened to be appealed after March 2022, the dockets and unsealed filings are sitting right there online for $0. And finally, Step 4, if the case wasn't appealed, well, that's when you turn to local county resources. Just comparing the costs of these portals is pretty eye-opening. The Appellate Portal and Family Search, completely free and instant. Gotta love that. But if you want remote access to modern trial court dockets, you'll likely hit a portal called Just One Look, which hits you with a $9.99 charge per search query. And yes, that's even if there's no match. For ordering official certificates online, third-party sites like VitalCheck are going to charge you upwards of $30, plus you have to wait days for processing. As an investigator, your goal is to stay in those top 2 free tiers as much as humanly possible. Which brings us to Section 4. Navigating the courthouse loophole. This is the ultimate free access. So what happens if you really need a modern trial record, but you absolutely refuse to pay those query fees? Well, state law mandates that the public has a fundamental right to inspect these writings. To satisfy this law, every single circuit court clerk across Alabama's 67 counties is required to provide a free on-site public computer terminal. It's brilliant. By physically visiting the local courthouse, you can legally utilize this loophole terminal to search the AlaCourt database, view entire case dockets, and read the decrees right there on the screen for exactly $0. Now, there is a tiny catch. While viewing it on the screen is entirely free, taking physical copies home is definitely not. Statutorily, it costs $5 for up to 20 pages and then 50 cents for each additional page. So the pro move here: use that free terminal for all your research and verification and only pay to print the exact pages, like the final judgment itself, that you absolutely have to have. Let's jump to Section 5, interpreting your legal findings, or decoding the jargon. Once you actually get your hands on the records, your job isn't quite done yet. You might be opening a file expecting to read all these scandalous details of betrayal in a modern divorce, but most of the time, you're just going to see the phrase irretrievable breakdown. Under Alabama Code Section 32.2, this is simply the state's no-fault terminology. It legally means the marriage is over without either party having to formally prove fault, like infidelity or abandonment. It really simplifies the legal process, which is exactly why it's so incredibly common in today's filings. Now, if you're diving into historical or genealogical research, you're probably going to bump into a different term, chancery court. So what is this? Well, before 1915, Alabama divorces weren't handled in standard civil courts at all. They were processed in these historical courts of equity. Knowing this little tidbit is a massive advantage. When you're searching platforms like Family Search for pre-1915 records, you now know that you need to specifically hunt down the archival chancery court books for that county, rather than looking for standard circuit court files.
And finally, Section 6, Privacy, Ethics, and Law, the Rules of Engagement.
Having access to all this powerful information naturally comes with some pretty strict responsibilities. Alabama has implemented specific court privacy rules to balance public access with vital privacy interests. When you pull a file, expect to see redactions, information regarding minor children, social security numbers, and highly sensitive financial data. That stuff will often be blacked out or completely sealed by local court rules. Furthermore, any information tied to domestic violence protective orders or victim locations is strictly guarded. As an investigator, you've got to respect these boundaries. They exist for a very good reason: to protect the vulnerable. You also really need to keep the number 30 in mind. If you're reviewing a docket and you're wondering why there's a sudden month-long gap in activity right after the initial filing, it's actually because of a mandatory 30-day cooling-off period. A judge literally cannot finalize the divorce decree until 30 days have passed since the complaint was filed. Understanding this statutory timeline really helps you make sense of those weird gaps in the legal record. And we have to be very clear here. The methods and strategies we've outlined in this explainer are for accessing public information legally and ethically. You must adhere to all privacy laws. Attempting to bypass court seals, misusing sensitive financial data, or trying to locate individuals protected by domestic violence orders carries severe legal consequences. The whole power of open public records relies entirely on the public using them responsibly. Think about this. Activist groups like Reclaim the Records are actively filing freedom of information lawsuits right now. They're battling government agencies just to keep historical, genealogical data out of the hands of expensive commercial paywalls. It really begs the question, doesn't it? If we have to fight this hard just to access our own public records, what other vital pieces of our shared history are currently locked away behind a government paywall? Keep digging, keep learning, and as always, thank you so much for joining me.